guys, welcome to another video on May in Bloom. So today I wanted to do a soul talk. I feel like I haven't done a soul talk with you guys for a while. Or maybe just grab it to, like I always say, it's a soul talk, so it's gonna take a while. Listen to me while you clean, do something. I don't know, do you exercise, you stretches? So I want to talk about like dating advice I wish I had gotten when I was younger, a young black girl in the dating world. Like if you didn't have good relationship role models, there's maybe some things that you miss out on and you're just learning as you go. And I think if we were to grow up in environments that are ideal for human development, where you have your guardians like are in love with each other and they take care of each other and they support, well, even if they don't stay together, but you see that mutual love and care and respect for one another, that kind of sets you up with a different ideal and a realistic ideal, because you feel like, oh, I saw that with the people that raised me and I know that's possible. Things. But I also am a big believer in the fact that sometimes you just gotta make your own mistakes and figure things out yourself. Even though you maybe had different advice, there's some things that we learn and honor differently once we've felt it on our own bodies, on our own hearts and mind and soul, and we're like, oh, okay, this is a good lesson. I'm definitely not going to be doing that again, or I will do this differently if I got a chance to do it again. The first one is very simple. It's basically, no, you will not end up alone forever. And I say this mostly because I imagine I'm talking to the younger girl that I used to be, in the sense of like, when I was 14, I was already panicking that I hadn't had a boyfriend yet. And then when I was 17, I was like, oh my God, what if nobody ever kind of, like, I find nobody and I never date anybody and I die alone. I'm like, oh my God, baby girl, you got your whole life. I don't know, I feel like that is a panic I had when I was younger. And then I'm like, now that I'm 33, I'm like, you would have never ended up alone. And what does it even mean to end up alone? Because let's say you do date somebody successfully for 50 years and then they die before you, you're alone. So this also like leads into another point, which I'll maybe try to make later. Don't make being alone the worst that can happen to you, because baby girl, there is worse things that you can end up being than single. You could be miserably attached to someone for the rest of your life, and that might cause you more harm than happiness. So that is number one. Don't worry about that. You're most likely going to end up with, like, slow down. There's so much more to life than finding romantic attachment. There is so many things worthy of having and experiencing than just that. It's important, but it's not the all be all. Don't waste your life thinking that it can't properly start until you have somebody to call your own. Three is, you are bound to make mistakes. This is very important, because I think while you're waiting to have your first relationship, you might be watching a lot of, like, I don't know, romantic movies, reading a lot of books, idolizing love, and you build this picture up in your head that makes you feel that love is supposed to be a perfect experience, and it's not. Like, focus on every relationship I get in. Let me try to learn something. Let me try to improve something. Let me try to meet myself differently, meet the way I love and view love differently, so that I can keep growing and I can keep becoming a better and better partner. And sometimes I think when I was growing up and I did get into my first relationships, I think I had idolized love and what it was supposed to feel like. And the initial part of it is exactly that, romantic, beautiful. Like, I felt like I was very lucky in love in the sense of, like, the things I experienced. But I also know that at some point when I was starting out dating, I had idolized love so much that I didn't know to make space for the not so nice spot. Like, I almost felt like if we got into a disagreement, it meant our relationship was over. If there were things that were not working out in any way, it felt like our relationship was over. Like, I almost felt like love was only supposed to feel good and be good and work out every time, or else it wasn't love. And it's because I grew up with so much of the opposite of that my mind just overcompensated on the other side. That because I know that that's not love and that's not what I want, I imagine that love is going to be this magical thing that's going to save me for everything, romantic love, that is. Be careful to over-idolize romantic relationships, like I said, and I think I've made a video about this before, that love goes beyond romantic relationships, and I think we overvalue this because it's our means of production. Like, isn't like we create people this way. um, and we also have a biological need to find a mate and to go through life with mates. Whether we are meant to be monogamous for the rest of our life is questionable. I think we have the capacity for both. It's more about choice and what you like. You could have several big loves over your life, and that could be a success. Or you could choose one partner from high school until the day you die, and that could be your success. But either way, there's so many things other than just love, and you're bound to grow through those love. And love is not just happy moments. It's like your relationships with your friends, your family, other people. And I think you learn even more about love sometimes when you do experience other than those situations that so easily make you feel like you're floating on air, or you are in a movie or what have you. So you're bound to make mistakes, you're bound to mess up, but as long as you commit to learning and growing, you will be okay. Okay, so this also leads perfectly into number 4, which is romantic relationships are bound to bring up certain wounds and insecurities. And I also sometimes feel that in romantic relationships, it's also the greatest opportunity for us to learn and heal and grow, because they're going to trigger especially things from our childhood. Like if you didn't have a healthy attachment growing up, if you didn't have great support growing up, if you didn't grow up in a house that taught you what true love and how loving people are supposed to treat you, all of those wounds are going to come up in a relationship, because that's when we are most vulnerable. That's when we open ourselves the most. And so see this as an opportunity. Don't be frightened by the rise of these insecurities and these wounds, because it's almost like when rain comes and you recognize that, oh, there is like a leak in my roof. You wouldn't have known that maybe if you were just in sunshine by yourself, like single life. You're assuming that you're happy when you're alone, and I hope you are. But when you love someone and you kind of see that pouring love also bring up the pitfalls that you have, like the cracks in your foundation, the leaky parts in your roofs, it's a great thing. It's painful, but it's a great thing, especially if you're in a beautiful relationship with somebody you trust with those insecurities and those wounds, because it helps you bring it to the table, and you in partnership with somebody who loves you work through those things. Through love and relationship, I've gotten to work through my codependency. I've gotten to work through my experiences with sexuality and sex and having a healthier relationship without boundaries, my mental health. I've been able to work through those things because of the wounds that would really rise up, and I would see them much clearer sometimes when I was with people than when I was by myself, right? So see that as an opportunity to meet yourself, to heal yourself, to work on yourself. Don't stop working on yourself just because you're in love, but go in it already imagining that would be an opportunity for you to keep growing and evolving as a being. And I think sometimes we forget that that's also another thing that love gives us. It's not just I get to be in a relationship and have babies and da-da-da, if that's your plan. But it also helps see yourself differently. You know, it helps meet yourself differently and maybe even deeper. So bonus, great thing. Be intentional about that experience for yourself. It's basically, don't try to keep the crazy for later. What do I mean by that? Sometimes in my sessions with people, and if they start dating, I notice there's this need for us to put on a performance, to show up in a certain way that maybe puts us in a certain light, you know. And to be fair, like we do that in so many areas of our lives. Like even today, like I made an effort to find the corner in the space that is the most lovely, like the light at the best that I can get it. I put on my lovely clip-on earrings. I did my face up a bit, you know, I did my hair. So there is a need to show up in a certain way, right? Presenting yourself in a certain way that makes you feel more confident, more comfortable, right? But I also feel that when we are dating, who we are as a person. Like I did all that with the other stuff, but me as myself showing up, this is usually me. If you know me, this is also how I would talk sometimes. What I was saying about that is don't keep your crazy for later when you date people. Meaning, I would prefer to show up on a date, at least in the initial part of a relationship, as my full self, because I'm also less attached to you. So if you choose to pass on me, it's a relief than if I keep certain parts of myself hidden until I'm attached to you and you're attached to me, and then they make you feel a certain way, and then we have this. It's more painful if I get rejected, or if we pass on each other later. And it's the same with you. If I'm dating someone, I want to feel like they are bringing their most authentic self to me. If you have some parts of you that you feel are supposed to be kept for later, ooh, don't do that, because it's going to hurt even more when you get attached to someone and they don't like you. Because if you like certain movies, certain music, let's say a song is playing and the person's like, oh, I don't like that song. It's like a bit too mainstream. I prefer it, blah, blah, blah. And you love that song. And you're like, oh, but this person that I really like doesn't. So I'm not going to. No, say, what? I love that song. I think that song is amazing. It's a cliche. Maybe it's a bit poppy, but it's a vibe. I love it. Like, let people know who you are. If you have a certain way, if you sleep with the bonnet on, don't feel like, oh, I'm too ugly. I don't feel attractive with my bonnet, so I'm not gonna put it on when this person comes over. No, put the freaking bonnet on so that they can get to choose you, who you are, not who you're pretending to be. It's almost like, we are marketing ourselves, and then we are kind of like portraying something that isn't true. We're selling the good parts, and we're trying, but also even you feeling insecure about certain parts of yourself, like going back to point number 4, it's an opportunity for you. Why do I feel weird about sharing this part of myself? Am I ashamed of my childhood? Am I ashamed of my financial standing? Am I ashamed of the place I live? Am I, like, all this stuff that you recognize about yourself? Or are you ashamed of speaking in a more vulnerable way because you feel like you might get judged? All of those things are opportunity for you to also get to know yourself better and recognize, why do I feel like, even maybe it's not in that moment, but later on, why do I feel the need to hide these aspects of myself? But also be natural about it. It's not like you show up on your date and you... I'm just going to tell you everything, like overwhelm the person and emotionally dump on them. No, be mindful of other people's energetic space. But when things arise in that natural space, naturally be that. And if the person doesn't like that and they don't feel comfortable with that, that's also their right to know that that's not for them, right? You don't have to persuade and contour yourself into a thing that is likable, and then voila, show up as who you really are. If you don't like shaving often, don't do that. Like if you most likely don't shave your legs, but you're gonna shave because you have a date, don't do that. Then let them see your hair and be like, ew, I'm not into girls with hair. If you're a human person that grows hair and they don't like human people with hair, except on them, give them the opportunity to opt out. Don't trick people into liking you if that's not who you are. Don't pretend to like things. Or let's say the person's vegan, you're like, yeah, I also am a bit of a vegan, like I actually don't eat that much meat, and you go out hunting with your buddies. Like, that's deceitful, that's manipulation. Like, we're so aware when people, like, we are so aware of the fact that we don't like people that lie, are deceitful, manipulative. But then we also do that to some degree, Be mindful at the cost of that manipulation. Like, what is it actually going to get me to pretend I'm into this and not into that, just so that I can trick this person into liking me, loving me? I always say that friendships can teach us a lot of great advice for our romantic selves, because if you're making a friend, you're most likely just going to be yourself, at least, right? That's how I go. Like, I'm just me, the way I want to be, and I hope that you are as well. And then we're like, oh my god, this is a vibe. I see you, see me, right? That's what I like in romantic relationship as well. I'm me, you're you, and then if we vibe, and then we get to be like, you like me for me, I like you for you. Amazing. Of course, as you get to know each other, more things will come up that weren't maybe relevant as you were getting to know each other, but those things were not intentionally hidden, right? There's a difference. Present who you are to the best of their ability, but don't contour or manipulate who you are to make somebody like you. Okay, because you'll be playing, both of you, eventually, wasting time on this precious earth, and we don't have a lot of time here. So let's not do that to each other. Number 6. It's called Create in Case Nobody Show Up Ideal Life Plan. So one. What does that mean? That basically means, I remember when I was dating and I hadn't been aware of that, oh my goodness, I have codependence. I didn't know this word yet, but I just recognized that I got too attached. And then like my mood, my way of being was literally based on who I was dating and how well our relationship was. Like they were in my head 24/7 basically. And then like when that would end, like I would be like, oh my God, here I am. I've abandoned myself all this time. Like, what am I? What's going on here? Luckily, that part of my life didn't last too long because one thing about me, I do be learning faster. I remember like recognizing that I would feel much more at ease if my life by myself and if nobody ever showed up, if I had a bomb ass plan for the fact that if nobody showed up, then dating would be great and falling in love would be great, but I wouldn't be afraid of it not working out because I know I'd have this solid, great plan for myself either way, right? So I started like just literally drawing up, if my life is just going to be me, myself, and I for the rest of my life, how would it be bomb ass anyway? You know, like I have plans like, oh, I would travel still. I would live in different countries. I would do work that I love. I would grow in the spaces that I enjoy, like whether it's writing, holistic living, and decolonialism. Like just imagining what my life, I would still get a house somewhere at some point and have my little garden by myself. I'll get some animals, maybe a cow and a goat or a sheep, you know. And yeah, like grow plants and be the local medicine woman. Create an ideal plan for your life that feels bomb regardless if somebody shows up. You'll be in relationships differently because you know that this is not you rescuing me from a catastrophic life projection, but this is you adding another option, right? But even if you were not to show up, even if this relationship might not work out, I have my plan. I have my single lady plan or single man plan. Like, have a plan that makes you feel like if that's the only thing that I got to do in my life, I'd still be happy and feel like my life was fulfilled, right? And I think a lot of us don't prepare for that, and we're so focused that the only way our life is supposed to work up and be amazing is if this person shows up and we have a romantic relationship and we follow this trajectory, and anything else is a failure. And I think we go into relationships then with that space, from that space of desperation. And when you're loving from a place of desperation, you're going to love differently. You're on a beach, you're drinking coconut water, and you're having the blast of the time of your life, you know. You got money in the bank, you know, your family's good, and then this cute person shows up. Like, it's a bonus, but you're really good. You're really already living your best life. Whatever that scenario looks like for you, like maybe that's something that you have with you even in a relationship, that I'm here and I love you, but I'm also okay if this doesn't work out because I've already planned an amazing life for myself regardless of this. Like, where I would still have fulfilling relationships, be part of a meaningful community, contribute in a way that makes sense to me. But this is great. This is also lovely. This is amazing, you know? And it's the same thing that I feel with my partner and even the last few relationships, that I'm happy to be in relationships with the people I love, and I see how wonderful it is to have that support, to be able to build together, especially if you're in a relationship like with somebody that you feel like you guys have the same even vision of where you're going. So it's not, nobody's like compromising in that sense because you both want to do the same thing. You also see your end goal similar. It's beautiful to go on that journey with someone, but I also know if my partner and I went together, I also still would have an amazing life, you know? Loving from that point is different. Your tolerance for bullshit will decrease as you get older. This is important because I think when we're younger, we're also just learning, if that makes sense. We're learning about boundaries. We're learning about what we like, what we don't like. We're learning about what ideals and values of love are our own and what we just took on, but they don't actually make sense to us. There's so many things that you won't know you like or don't like, want or don't want, unless you're there sometimes. And then you're like, ooh, don't want that, ooh, da-da-da. But you're learning, you're collecting data. And then later you're going to make better decisions, and you also have a lower tolerance for certain bullshit or certain things. You might go a part of your life where you're like, I'm okay with that because I love to help people and I love to be this person's safe space. I like all of that things, so it makes sense. There's a part of your life where you might be okay with that. And then there might be a part of your life where you're like, I'm at a place right now where I can't do that again. That for me right now is a no. Like, that's me. Not that there's something particularly unworthy of the person, but just you knowing I've reached my capacity, and that's not something I can tolerate or make space for anymore where I am in my life. There's also things that you learn, for example, through people that you've met, red flags that were able to sleep by because you didn't have data collected to match up when you saw certain things that you're going to put up with. And then you get at a certain age where you become better at that. At some point, we all recognize, especially as women, that we've done some community service, right? We've lost years, we've lost mental stability, we've lost sunshine in our eyes to better someone who's now a better service to society with someone else than they were when we met them. I don't feel like I know a lot of men who are like, yeah, I took in a stray cat and now they're like this golden person who eats better, thinks better, mentally more stable than when they met me, but I paid the price for fixing that situation in some way. I think a lot of men date what they see, but a lot of women date what could be, and that's where we mess up with each other. You, when you're younger, are just more hopeful about certain things. So even red flags you might see, you might be like, nothing a lot of love can't fix, you know? Oh, nothing a lot of patience. If I could just be a different kind of person than the person has been with before, that would be fixed, or that would be worked on. They would change that. Instead of thinking, I need to date this person if they never change. If they never improve anything, right, would I still be with them? And if you feel like, no, I wouldn't, I'm only dating them in hopes that they become better people at some point, don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself, basically. Ooh, very appropriate to what I said before. Don't go backwards in love. I think like that's very self-explanatory in the sense, if you grow in love, we are all growing in all aspects of our life. If you grow and you change a habit and you do better, like, oh, I used to be really into fixer-uppers, for example, in our last example. Now know that I know better. I'm not going to date people who I'm dating their potential and the person and who they are, you know? I'm not going to do that. I used to be somebody who gave too many chances, but now you are like, I have a 3-strike rule. Like, 1, everybody makes a mistake. 2, interesting. 3, this is a choice. We need to talk about it. And from that moment when I'm talking to you about your 3rd strike, I've already decided that if this doesn't go in a way that feels like we're going to find a solution and not repeat this, I'm ready to bounce, right? So don't go back in love. And one thing I say about to myself as well, even if I love someone so much, if I feel like I'm regressing in my growth mentally, spiritually, and soulfully with the person I'm in, even romantically, I don't want to do that to myself. It's something else if other people do it to me, but I don't want to be that person who's putting myself in a worse situation than I was before. Rather I be single, because remember I have that bomb-ass plan, so I know that I'm going to be happy with my bomb-ass single forever life, right? I'm going to be well-balanced mentally, physically, holistically. So if I'm dating you and I notice that you're bringing me backwards in all of those things, we can't move forward together. I'm not going to do that I'm not going to drag you with me. That's not fair to you, and it's not fair to me anymore. So I'm going to be like, I don't want to make you feel worse for who you are and where you are, but I'm also recognizing I'm not going to make myself less than so I can be here with you, right? So either you also meet yourself at a bigger space, heal yourself, and take accountability for your healing and growth so we can both be on this journey together, or we have to separate. And there's no like ill intent in that, like, because I think we all grow at our own pace. But I'm not going to wait, or I'm not going to regress or expect less for myself because I'm with somebody who does less or works on themselves less. We're not doing that, you know. But I'm patient, I'm loving. But I need to be with somebody who I know is showing up for themselves and taking accountability and responsibility, just like I do my best to do. One thing about me, you can call me out on some shit. And if you have receipts and you have proof, I'm like, say less, sis. I'm going to work on that. That's not it. Are you having fun? Are you on your 3rd cup of tea? Oh my God. My foot is dying. Yet I must sit like this because it's the rule of my people. I can't sit with my legs down. I think it's because I'm short. Like, I've always felt uncomfortable with both legs on the floor. It feels weird, stiff. I always have to have a foot up somewhere or curled somewhere. Number 10 is similar to some things, but different at the same time. It's basically, a relationship is not a performance, but an opportunity to create a world you both enjoy being a part of. Also self-explanatory. Don't be in a relationship playing out what it feels like to be me, a woman or a man, or whatever kind of combinations of relationships you're in, a woman and a woman, man and man. Don't be in it putting on a play for each other. Oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm supposed to do. Actually check in with each other. Do you like what you do? Do I like what I do? Can we do it differently? Is that something you enjoy more than I do? But you're supposed to do according to social norms? Maybe I could do that and you could do something else. You know, there's some girls that like, I want to be out there making the money. I feel good about that. I like that. I think it's cool. And you're like, you know what? I know I'm a man, but I really don't mind just going around doing the laundry and taking care of the kids if we do have kids. And you're like, you know what? I like that. Let's do that because I don't want to stay with kids. And I know I should because I'm the woman, but I don't want to do that. So if you want to do that, that's amazing. Let's do that. Create a relationship that makes it possible for both of you to feel like you are aligned with who you are and you are living your best life, not performing what a best life looks like as a couple. Don't do that. Don't feel like your relationship has to make sense to people outside of it. If it works for you guys, the joy and the beam in your eyes will emanate evidence that this is working. Might not make sense, might be weird. Maybe you guys see each other once a month and that's great. But is it love really? Like, you guys don't spend. That's all I need, girl. Get out of my business. You know? Make love make sense for you, whatever that is. Don't perform love. Create love that makes sense and is comfortable and accommodating for your best parts, your best ideal way of expression and existing on this planet for this very brief moment that we all have. I'm never going to stop reminding you of that because we shouldn't forget that. Okay. Ooh, this is a good one. It's... I like saying that about stuff I wrote. This is a good one. Pay attention to things about their exes. Back to the red flags stuff. Is it possible that maybe somebody had some crazy exes, just 5 in a row? It can happen. Some people are just weirdly unlucky. Maybe that can happen. But you should still ask important questions. Okay, so after the first crazy person, what did you learn to do different in the next relationship to avoid that? What do you feel might have added to that crazy? Was that person who was crazy? Did I always make their boyfriends or girlfriends feel crazy? Or is it just you, you know? What would they say about you if I were to ask them? None of them. You don't like any of your exes to this day. None of them. That is weird, right? I'm sensing a you issue. You know? Ask questions. If somebody, like, when I talk about my exes, first of all, if I loved you, I loved you. And you can't say anything different. I do my best to make that shit work. I love as if we're going to make it forever, but I'm attached to you in a way that I know you're a blessing and you can go when you want, when you need to, when it's not working. But my commitment in the relationship is, if this lasts forever, what kind of partner am I going to be to you day to day, right? Each relationship, I've learned also how to love better and be better. There are parts that I played that added to the detriment of the relationship. And even if I'm talking about my ex, I try to be holistic in the experience that we shared together. I even might say, oh, maybe that person was really toxic, or maybe that person was, I've dated a narcissist, for example, which makes sense because of the person I was, like being codependent and being like really eager to help people and fix people. I was going to draw some people who are just going to be red flagging me, and I'll be like, but I understand. I can imagine what it feels like to be you. So I'm going to be the better person and keep being the better person until there's nothing better for me left to help me. But I'm not like that anymore, thank God, because I'd be learning. Anyway, but what I'm trying to say is, even if I talk about my past relationship, even the worst that ended the worst, I see the good and bad. I see the parts where we helped each other. I see the parts where we didn't help each other. I see the parts where I learned a lot. Why maybe that love, regardless of how good or bad or how I wouldn't choose that love now, but like I needed that love because I learned something and I grew from that. If you're just getting a blank statement that my exes are just crazy, like, where are you finding these people? It's impossible. You learned nothing. You did nothing. You have no role to play. Pay attention to how people speak about their exes. And don't be shy about asking questions. Yeah, the one, I feel like everything is well tied together, if I might say so myself. The next one is like, pay attention to how someone deals with hardships in themselves and others. That's why I also like the follow-up questions. Yes, you experienced that hard experience or situation or trauma when you were younger. What have you been doing about that? Or how are you showing up for yourself? What has it taught you about life? How has it affected your perspective in life? All of these things are very important because shit is going to happen to all of us. Or shit has happened to most of us. But I'm not so worried about what happened to you. I'm more interested in what you chose to do with that. You know what? And I'm not saying that in the moment. Like, I'm not like somebody's telling me something traumatic has happened to them. Like, and what are you going to do about it? Like, you know, have a heart. You know, I have a heart. I'm also saying all this because of where I am right now. I used to just receive all that. Like, oh my God, oh yeah, that makes sense. That explains why you can't do that for me. Or that explains why I have to be the mature person. That, like, I would just use all of that as fuel to deny myself of having an equal, mature relationship emotionally where we both show up and do the work. I would be like, you know what? You just sit there and you relax, and I'm going to do all the studying because I didn't know shit either. I was growing, you know? And I'd be like reading, understanding that. So if somebody experiences this is what they need. This is what they need to have help with. This is how you show up for them. This is, and I'll be like, I've been through shit too, but they're not doing that for me. Like, in the sense of my way of dealing with hardship and problems is like, I get curious about it. I'm like, okay, how is this affecting me? How does this show up? It doesn't mean that you become a perfect person. I'm not a perfect person if you can't tell already. But in the sense of, I'm always interested in knowing how to be a bit better to myself, for myself and the people around me. And one thing about me is that if I've gone through like something painful and awful, the worst thing that could add to that is if I cause that same experience and hurt for someone else, and especially somebody I love, you know, even a stranger. Like, that also motivates me. How do I make sure that I'm not leaking the pain and suffering and trauma I felt over other people? And some people don't get to that part. They're just like, because I've gone through all of this, everybody now needs to put up with everything they're going to experience because of that. I get that part of life. I understand that part of life. But it's not helping you, and it's not helping the people around you. And you're not gonna be happier with yourself in a year or 2 years if you just stick to that part. I remember when I used to be like very in the victim space, and for a moment it served me, because as long as you're a victim, you get a pass on certain things, even from yourself, right? But then I remember thinking, do I actually want to be a victim my whole life? And I was like, ooh, I was victimized, but I don't want to identify as have a victim mentality for the rest of my life. I want to show up for myself and show that I can actually help myself. I can seek help. I can lean on people. I can create supportive community around me if I'm going through something hard. But I am going to show up in a way that I don't want the things that I went through, hard or painful, to be the things ruling how I live my life for the rest of my life. Learning, yes. Growing from that, yes. Having a deeper understanding of the human experience. I love all of that. I appreciate all of that. But it's not going to be stuff I want to intentionally carry. So paying attention to how your potential partner deals with hardships will also tell you a lot on how your relationship with them is going to survive and thrive through life. Because some people don't know how to deal with hardship in a proactive way. Some people go in self-sabotage, self-destructive mode. There are also people who are like, if things are hard and painful, they just go into pure fixer mode, but dissociative kind of fixer mode. Like, they pent up everything, suppress everything, because they're maybe used to being really self-reliant and independent because they never or hyper-dependent because you never had anybody to lean on or somebody to support you through hard things. So you learn to be like, I'm going to do everything by myself. I don't need you. I don't trust you to help me. So I'm just going to do everything by myself. That's also not healthy, you know. There are also people who learn to just lean back and let other people take control because maybe they've been made to feel from a young age that you're incapable of fixing your issues and you're incapable of showing up for yourself. You need other people to do that, and they've taken on that role. So when hard things happen, they're more like, what are you guys going to do for me in this situation, you know? So pay attention to that. Don't give anything you will regret giving if you do not end up happily ever after. I'm a big believer in we don't do sacrifices. I don't like that word in relationships. I am Jesus. I'm not going to be up there for your sins. And as much as I want us to work out, I'm never going to do anything for you that feels like a sacrifice for me. What do I mean by that? If I feel like I am going to suffer to give you something, it's not a pure gift by doing that already. And it has a high likability that I will become resentful if I do that or keep doing that. If I give you anything, if I've given you anything, it's because of I heard this actually in a podcast the other day that I really loved. And it's from, I can't remember the podcast name, but I will try to put it somewhere if I do. I think Picky Girl's Guide to Life. I don't know. It's about Black women living their best life, however that might be. Nomadic, I don't know, alternative relationship, not choosing children, living in their cars. The options are endless in the many ways that Black women can be happy, and we need to be aware of those options. But she was saying that you never give people from your cup, you give people from the source of your cup. I like that. I never really was able to put it in words or an analogy, and I think that's perfect. I will give you from my abundance, because in that sense, or even if it's not my abundance, but I'll give you from a place that I can afford whatever I'm giving to you, to give it to you from the best of my ability. Even if, let's say, like, I only have $300 or euros in my bank, and you need that because of something. If I honestly feel like it won't hurt me to give you that 300, and I'm giving it to you from the idea of that, yes, I hope you pay me back, but even if you don't, I'm not going to be resentful, and I trust you enough to do that, then I'll give them to you, even if that means I have zero. So it's not from that point. But at the same time, I'm never going to do, let's say, like, you want to move to Antarctica because you do research and you're like a brain girl, we're a couple. And I hate the cold. I know I'll be miserable there, but this is your dream job. I'm not going to move there with you because I know I'll be miserable. I'll hate that. I'm not going to be like, oh, but we're a couple, we struggle together. Da, da, da. No. We're going to be either a couple from afar, right? Or we're just going to accept that this is the end of our journey together. I always say in a relationship, even in the worst of moments, remember we are choosing to be together. Like, remember that. Don't ever forget that. We're choosing to be together. This is not a law. This is not a life necessity. We're choosing each other. Meaning, this choice has to continually also make sense to you, for you. I want you to be happy and fulfilled. I want you to be the best expression for yourself. I want to make it possible that me being in your life is adding value and joy and beauty and support. Not in any way that, oh, I don't do this anymore. I used to love doing that, but I can't because I'm in a relationship. I can't show up for myself. I'm eating worse. I'm sleeping. Don't be with me. Don't be with anybody that makes you feel like you're sacrificing your well-being, your joy, your passion, your path in life that makes sense to you, that you love. So I don't believe in sacrifices. I never give anything, regardless of how big, that also doesn't make sense to me as well. If I do something very generous for somebody, it makes sense because I'm showing you how much I love you. That's not a sacrifice. I love you so much that my joy and love for you wants me to do this for you. Even if it can look like I'm giving you something, or I'm giving you money or time or presents or whatever it might be, I give you, and that present is for you regardless of how we end up. I'll never regret anything I've given anybody I love because I gave it and I did it from a place of love. I did it from a place of true, authentic joy of the giving of it, and I never want people to feel like they owe me anything because they gave me something, and I don't want to feel like I owe anybody anything because they gave me something. So never give someone expecting with the other hand, like, I'm giving you this and in return I hope you never leave me and you always love me. Ew, keep your gift. I'd rather die rather stop. Give from a free space and give things you won't regret regardless of how your relationship turns out. That includes friendships as well. Don't like people who are like, yeah, but I took her on trips, I did all this and that, she's not. When you did that, you love that person, you care about that person. Yes, life happens, and now you guys maybe didn't work out. But don't be that person who's like, oh, I gave you all these things with the idea that you and I would be good and love each other forever. It might not work out like that, but give from a place that I'll give you this regardless, because it's about how I feel about you, what I want to do for you. It's not what you might do for me if I do this for you. It's love people who add to your peace of mind, self-esteem, and support in your life. Knowing how good you can feel by yourself and being in a great space, in a single space, you by yourself, is a great foundation to knowing the value that other people contribute to in your shared experience. If you're dating somebody, I always pay attention. Like, if somebody's in a relationship and I've known them for a while, I always pay attention. Like, do I see them feeling more comfortable, more confident, more joyful, more self-expression? Do they laugh easily? Do their eyes sparkle? Do they feel like at ease, like their shoulders have calmed down and their tension is released? Because that is a sign of what that relationship is adding to their life. There's some people that are just happy to be in a relationship and they're willing to turn gray in the face, dark eyes, lose all the things that matter to them, their soul, their happiness, just to say, well, we are still together. No, sis, it's not worth it. Nothing is worth that. If something doesn't add to your mental peace of mind, if you feel more stressed, if you're sleeping less, if you're enjoying food less, if your joy in life is diminishing, and all you have to show for it is that you're still with someone, that's not a good trade-off at all, at all. True love, real beautiful love, romantic, platonic, whatever, is going to add to your sense of confidence, your sense of self-esteem. You're going to feel more supported in the world. You're going to feel like, I feel like I just have an extra person on my team, and I have another person whose team I'm on, and we're rooting for each other, we support, and we look. Having a relationship that brings you down, somebody that tears you down, somebody who brings your energy down, somebody, if you're with a gathering with friends and they come in the room, like, you shift yourself a bit because you have to be a certain way because they're around. Somebody who's not like, oh, they come and you're like, yeah, here's my baby, come be here with me. Like, I love it when you show up because it makes me feel like I can be even more of myself. I feel supported and seen by you. If love doesn't make you feel like that, and you do that for yourself by yourself, girl, rather you be alone forever than that. And that's why, like, relationships and dating is really, like, shifting, because the more people heal, and unfortunately I see that more, especially in the black space, like, more black women are putting so much effort in healing themselves, in knowing peace, actual inner peace and calm. Which means we're expecting different things from relationships now. And men are not always doing the same or following along the same way. Now, this is heterosexual relationships, but it doesn't matter who you date, in the sense that I'm just talking, this is a big issue here, male and female energy. There's a lot of healing happening from the feminine side, from the female side, that is not always seen in the masculine part. The market is changing, basically. I think I had this conversation also with a friend of mine recently. The market is changing. I think I also related a lot of that from my most healthiest of relationships growing up, which was with my siblings. And we were like just living cheerleaders, therapists for each other. Like, I love you, I believe in you, you can do that. If you mess up, okay, yeah, you messed up there, but this is what you can do about it. And I know you can do that. If you can't, I'm going to show up for you, I'm going to help you. When we were around each other, regardless of the situation, we felt like we were 10 feet taller, because you have that support, that love, that genuine care and love for one another. Love should make you feel like that. And if it doesn't, you need to evaluate, like, is that worth having? Rather I be alone than to feel like my joy is diminishing, my purpose, my sense of purpose in life, my light, like the way I dress, like I'm looking like I don't care anymore, I can't be bothered, I'm just surviving. No, we're not doing that. Oh, this is really good. This is enjoy your single years and gaps. Some people date back to back. Is that a red flag? You can judge. I just realized that but my last relationship was like different, because like we had an open relationship and now I'm still with the person there was the first time in my life me defending myself. It was the first time in my life I didn't have a break between the relationship and my next relationship. But I value the gaps between relationships, because that's my time to you know, take a score of things. Like, what did I learn? What did I like? What did I not like? How have I become a better person? How have I learned more about love and being a better partner in love? How am I going to use this to change the way I move forward and the way I love moving forward? I need to assess myself before I put myself in a new romantic relationship. And I think your single time is the best time to do that. You've just left the battlefield, girl. You need to regroup. You know? What are we not doing anymore? You know? You can't have that if you're just dating people back to back. I had a partner who was like, I don't let go of anybody unless I have a new partner in sight. And I'm like, ew, red flag. Also, can you guess, that was a narcissist I did. It's not healthy to just be jumping from relationship to relationship. Have some time alone, you know, even if it's a few months. Like, date yourself. Show up for yourself. Check in with yourself, you know. How are you going to do better and love better if you have no time to take score, if you have no time to evaluate, reflect, to apply, learn lessons? So I think that's very important. Enjoy your single gaps. Use them mindfully, intentionally. You know, they're not shameful corners that you go in the dark until another person sheds a light on you and says, you there, come, I'm picking you. Oh, amazing, finally. No. Be there intentionally. Grow and learn and evolve for yourself and also potentially for the next person that you want to share the amazing thing that we call love with, you know. The last thing is, it's not your job to fix people. Just because you understand why someone is hurting and hurting you does not mean you put up with it. Love is doing everything you can to not cause harm to the people you say you love. I think like that's very important. It goes both ways. Your partner is not there to fix you. They're there to support you, to share resources and tools with you if they have them. But they're not there to fix you. Neither should you feel like you need to fix or heal other people. I think this just goes back to the whole codependency thing and savior complex and build a man foundation that we all signed up for but shouldn't really unsubscribe to. People are amazing people. People are amazing in general. And everybody comes with their own history and baggage. And everybody will need different parts of you. No relationship is the same because we all bring out different parts of ourselves in each relationships. But knowing also what is your responsibility. What's your role in a healthy relationship? What is not your role? If I saw my partner struggling and fighting for their life, it's not like I'll look at that and be like, ooh, that looks like a you problem. You know, all of these things are about balance. They sound cold-hearted, and I think they sound cold-hearted because we are literally encouraged, especially as women, to be codependent in relationships and carry the majority of the emotional and spiritual work in our relationships. Like to be the nurturers, the forgivers, the gracefulness. There's a lot of things, like even in, like, I speak a lot about heterosexual relationship because that was like the majority of my life. So my dear queer community, do not peg me for this. I can only speak from where I'm from. But, which is also interesting because I feel like since being in a relationship with another woman, I feel like the emotional burden is more shared. There is still inequalities here and there because you're always going to meet people who are either better at you at certain things or you're better at them and you're better at them than them in certain things, but not to the gaps that I saw them in heterosexual relationships. That feeling that you even felt honored to be put in a role where you were doing the majority of the emotional labor. It's not cool, sis. Like, you both have to show up in a way that is like, okay, these are the things I'm struggling with. These are the things I'm struggling on. Okay, how do I help you with that? How do I not trigger you? How do I show up for you in a way that makes it a safe space for you to work on that and you can lean on me and I can love you through that? Where do we go when I can't do that for you anymore? Are you willing to seek help? Are you willing to get a professional, a paid person so that you're not depleting me to save yourself? And the same for you. Am I depleting you with the things I'm going through? If I'm going through something very hard and very emotional and heavy, because as a very sensitive person, most of my emotions are felt very vividly and vibrantly. So if I'm depressed, I'm depressed. I don't want to be here anymore. If I'm happy and joyful, I'm beaming, everything. That's why, like, being in the middle, like a happy medium, is very important to me to master, because I grew up just going, you know. Um, and I learned to know that, okay, it's because I just feel a lot of things very intensely and deeply. But at the same time, when I would go through very hard and depressive moments, as I've grown and become more self accountable for my emotions, I also try to be mindful about that when I'm in a relationship. If I'm going through something really heavy, I also allow my partner to let me know, even if it's uncomfortable and painful. But like, if somebody tells me it's a bit a lot, I'm hearing a lot from that, and it's affecting me, and I feel like I might need a bit of a break. Ooh, it doesn't feel good, because you want someone to say, like, bring it all of it, like whatever you have, like whatever pain you're going through, like just give it, put it all here to mama. And I think also because I had to be so self-reliant in healing myself and fixing my issues, because I didn't have that growing up, if I get to the point where I'm leaning on you, that's a big deal. So if in doing that you show me that it's a lot for you, of course I'm going to feel bad and awful. But I also recognize it's fair that you tell me that. And rather you tell me that than you resent me for doing something that you can't stand or is harming you. And you're feeling like it's your responsibility to take it, and it's hurting you. And if it's hurting you and damaging you, it's going to damage us. And then none of us is good. So rather we have the uncomfortable conversation of that, I think I can't carry this with you anymore. We need to seek help, or somebody else who can help us with this. And we do that, and I realize that, okay, there's a limit to how much I can lean on you, and that's hard because I'm feeling triggered, because it takes a lot for me to say I need help, because I'm used to being helping myself or helping others emotionally. But at least I know that you telling me that, I trust you with yourself and your space and your boundaries. I know that you also are aware of how to help yourself. It's not your responsibility to fix somebody or make up for the trauma that somebody faced. And to be able to know within yourself how much you can be available and helpful and supportive. Because we've lived in a world where we've been taught that love is all sacrificing, but it's not true. It's not healthy. And that's why, like I always say, when people confuse you, go to nature. Nature is usually about interdependence rather than codependency or hyperdependence. Everything is connected and needs each other. But in order for us to have a good ecosystem together, I need to be as healthy as possible, and you need to be as healthy as possible. I need to know when the boundaries of those things merge. Like, okay, in order for me to feel supported, I'm actually really like depleting you. So your ecosystem is falling, which means that we are going to fall together. It's in my best interest to protect you also from my pain to a certain degree. Not to hide it or suppress it, but to protect you in a way that I know that we live in an ecosystem now, and I need you to survive and be good, because that's gonna help me too. And anybody that really loves you, and when we love people, if you recognize that you're harming someone with what you're going through, you're gonna do everything in your power not to hide and suppress it, because that's you playing yourself and the relationship. Don't do that shit. But showing up for yourself in a way that is still respectful for the person you're sharing space with, and knowing that loving them is also doing the best that you can do for yourself, to heal yourself, to balance yourself, to seek help when you need help, because you don't want that to be something that breaks them. I always think about my partners in the sense of, like, when I met them, like, for example, my current partner, like, I always saw her like as bright and sunshine and beautiful. And I always feel that it's my job to make sure that I add or help sustain that light and beauty in her, that joy, that gleeful life. I want to support her in sustaining that for herself. And I think that that's precious, and that makes her well-being precious to me, right? And I want somebody who loves me in the same way, that my well-being and joy and sparkles and jest for life is precious to you to keep. And if your way of being is harming that, if you see my light dimming because of you, that you're going to be like, not on my watch. I'm not doing that to you, you know? And we will work through it together. So I feel like that's one long ass video, but it kind of like sums up most of the things I've learned so far. So I think the only thing I didn't proper get onto was the part of but I feel like I talked about it at the end of the last one, which is like, don't just love people for how they make you feel, but also be active in making sure that, how do I make my partner feel? How do I show up in their world? You know, what part am I playing in that world? You know, like even like when we talk about the list, a lot of people don't make lists of what I want to bring to a relationship. You know, I remember like shifting that for myself. Like once I was like, okay, all the things I want in a relationship, how can I do that for myself? But also, what do I want to be in someone's life? Like, what do I want to add? What do I want them to take with them, even if we don't make it to the day we die, to our death old beds? And by being clear on those things, it also makes you recognize that you're not just there to get, you're also there to give. Your love is, yes, you and you together, but it's part of a bigger world. Don't date people and you're making them more traumatized and hurt and like even more worse off than before they met you, and then you're putting them back into the community pool. That's selfish, that's evil of you. Don't do that. Make sure that when you love, it's not just even about the person you love, but you're part of a bigger ecosystem, a bigger community. And at the very least, love people to the degree where if they go back into the space, they are better off, you know? They are more grounded, more healed, have more peace and calm in their life, because you make sure that that joy is preserved, that zest for life is preserved, or you added to that or contributed to that in making them feel safe and seen and supported and loved, you know? I think like that's so important. What is your intention with loving this person, and are you showing up in that manner? And that motivates me even in moments where maybe I mess up or maybe I'm told off, to be like, ooh, I gotta work on that, because I don't want the person I love to suffer the consequences of me not doing what I need to do to be the best person I can be. That's not fair, you know? And I know that that person, even if they go out and love someone else, the things that we've learned and the tools that we've gained together, they'll be adding to a better world. There's so many ways to help the world become a better place. I used to date this guy who was really into activism and bettering the world, and I remember thinking, like, you care so much about the world, but what about the world you have here in this room, in this relationship? And it made me think, like, I don't want to be that. Let's not be that person who is more focused on what I want to do for the world, bettering the world and making the world a better place. And you're out there destroying your family and the relationships you're with and the people who love you. Make it make sense. Like, rather you do nothing for the world out there, but the people who are close to you, the people you say you love, are feeling that love and that joy and that beauty and that support and care, because they're going to go out in the world and add that. So rather you don't be all in this activism, changing the world, because he was passionate, but not in becoming a better person in his relationships. And I was like, that's whack. I don't want to be like that. So I learned from that, like, when I'm your age, because we had like a 6-year age gap, I want to be better than that. And luckily I learned from that, and I'm not repeating that. Like, my best person, my best patients, best tools, they're going to go to the people I love before they go anybody there. Nobody's going to have a better thing to say about me out there that people around me don't have in tenfold. That's so important for me. Like, love starts in your home, you know? Change of the world starts in your home. Guys, I think that's it. Thank you for watching and enjoying. And I hope you've enjoyed this. And if you ever want somebody to help you on your journey, like on your holistic journey of living a life that feels authentic and true to yourself, romantically, like life goals, paths, healing, health, from a decolonial perspective, I'll be more than honored. You can always book a session with me, and I would love to share that space with you. Otherwise, as always, thank you so much for watching and being part of my little but cute community here. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye!